Roger Stone had been Trump's political fixer since the 80s, and among the first to suggest he run for president. Despite their occasional fallouts, it had remained Stone's personal ambition to see Trump succeed.
I want to talk to you about Donald Trump, someone who is a force of nature in himself, someone who marches to his own drummer, someone who is not handled, not managed, not controlled, a man who cannot be bossed and cannot be bought, which has made him one of the greatest presidents since Abraham Lincoln. I have a 40-year record of being able to convince the big man to do what's in his best interest. He's not easy to deal with. He's complicated. He resents any implication that he is handled or managed or directed. You have to say, remember that night we were in Buffalo and you gave that speech and God, there had to be 10,000 people, the biggest crowd they'd ever seen. And you said X, Y, and Z, and the place went crazy. Remember that? I don't know where you came up with that line, but it's one of the best things you've ever. Yeah, I'm gonna use that one again. Doesn't fucking matter that he never said it. Doesn't matter. It's time consuming, but it works. I did it for 30 years.
Stone's unusual relationship with Trump had convinced many that he knew the president's deepest secrets. As rumors intensified about Stone's imminent arrest, so did speculation about what he would reveal if pressured to talk.
So here's a weird thing. Trump is obsessed with the movie Sunset Boulevard. He watches it over and over and over again. Isn't that weird? That's weird, right?
That's too good a story.
It's true. It's 100% true. He likes it. Although state officials in all 50 states must ultimately certify the results of the voting in their state, the final decision as to who the state legislatures authorize be sent to the Electoral College is a decision made solely by the legislature. Any legislative body may decide on the basis of overwhelming evidence of fraud to send electors to the Electoral College who accurately reflect the president's legitimate victory in their state, which was illegally denied him through fraud. We must be prepared to lobby our Republican legislatures by personal contact and by demonstrating the overwhelming will of the people in their state, in each state, that this may need to happen.
That occurred and was caught on video November 5th, 2020. It is new to the world right now. Stone dictated that extreme plan, as you saw there, to his associate on the computer. And it was not only earlier than some of those other Trump figures' plans I mentioned, some of which, of course, are now part of indictments and looming trials. Let me make a clear point about this exclusive here on The Beat tonight. That was before the presidential race had even been called for Biden. Now, this is important. Take a look. Stone pushing the elector plot, as you just saw with your own eyes, all the way back on November 5th, 2020. That's a shot of the video on the left that we just have broken here as news tonight. Now, people had voted, but the race had not even been called. It was actually 2 full days later, November 7th, 2020, when the numbers and the nonpartisan outlets called Biden defeats Trump for White House. That timeline hurts the Trump defense that we've heard so much about, that these individuals pushing these plots were acting in a good faith belief they had won. Indeed, this particular piece of evidence, this video, shows quite the opposite for Stone. He was pushing the plot not because he believed Trump had won or was looking at numbers or looking at the results as they were called, which hadn't happened yet. No. Regardless of the results that were not even in, he was already pushing this plot. Stone's words on video were early. A month before now indicted Ken Chesebro penned the memo outlining the plot, long before Rudy Giuliani, now indicted, was recruiting those people. The video that you just saw is by Danish documentarian Christopher Gulbrandsen. As mentioned, we just aired it for the first time. Now, the video and the other information available does not address if or how Stone took any actions beyond what he said there. In other words, was he just talking? Was he just writing? Or did he also join what Jack Smith calls a conspiracy? We know some other individuals who did more things along these lines are unindicted co-conspirators to the DOJ or indicted racketeering co-conspirators down in Georgia as of this week. I can tell you Roger Stone's representative declined to comment on this new video and story when reached by MSNBC today. So this already is a lot. Then you put it in the wider context that we know, because while it started wherever it started in early November, eventually we saw Trump aides during a period where the whole world was moving on. Everyone was referring to President-elect Biden and people didn't know there was an insurrection coming. We still saw public signs that Trump aides were trying to do things in the states with elector plots, fraudulent electors, talk of alternate slates that, in hindsight, looked worse. In hindsight, are part of indictments. Take a look.
We have more than enough time to right the wrong of this fraudulent election result and certify Donald Trump as the winner of the election. As we speak today, an alternate slate of electors in the contested states is going to vote, and we're going to send those results up to Congress.
What we seek here is verifiable ballots, certifiable ballots. Until we do that, our assumption is the second Trump term.
That second Trump term. That was the public push. We also know it came after the secret lawyering, some of which is now being treated by prosecutors, at least in Georgia, as indicted racketeering, not valid lawyering. So the timing matters. And again, I want to show you this other context, because there was one other earlier message that the January 6th committee exposed as early as Donald Trump Jr. reaching now indicted Chief of Staff Meadows. That was on November 5th, where they talked about having states step in, put their own quote, as you see there, reference to what he said earlier was a separate slate of Trump electors. These would be in states they thought they were losing. Again, November 5th, before it was even called. And then looking at local Republican officials as the key to the coup. Writing to Meadows, Republicans control PA, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, etc. We get Trump electors. The Stone video evidence dates this plot back around that same week, before the race was called, before the more strict lawyerly memos were written. Again, I call it lawyerly or racketeering. The trials will ultimately resolve that, and everyone accused is legally presumed innocent. But what we see in this video now airing for the first time is another piece, at least of the puzzle. Whether that is a criminal puzzle or not is up to prosecutors, the law, and ultimately juries to decide. But it sure is bad. It sure is incriminating for people trying to say all they wanted to do was get to the real results or act on a good faith belief. If you were trying to steal and overthrow an election, you hadn't even officially lost yet.
Turning over some of that footage to the committee, what did they tell you?
We just spoke with them just a short time ago. The filmmakers behind it is called A Storm Foretold. One of them, Alex, is Christopher Gulbrandsen. He's the director and the producer. And there's Frederick Marbell as well. He's a director of photography. They really had unprecedented access with Roger Stone, and they were making this documentary on him. They wanted to see what his connections were, if there were any, between these groups like the Proud Boys, etc. The January 6th committee asked for their footage of Stone surrounding January 6th and the 2020 election, and they handed it over. And that indicates that, there includes a clip like this. It's of Roger Stone. This one is on from November 2nd of 2020 on his way home from a Doug Collins rally. This was in Georgia. Let's watch it.
Excellent. the violence. The voting. Let's get right to the violence.
Let's get right to it.
Shoot to kill. See an Antifa? Shoot to kill. Them. Done with this bullshit.
So, see an Antifa, shoot to kill, done with this BS, as he says. Alex, this was a day before the election. The filmmakers told me that Stone also renounced violence during the time that they spent with him, but they didn't find it sincere. They thought it was more of a wink and a nod. And you heard what he said in that clip.
Yeah, shoot to kill, just extraordinary. And Don, you have another clip that has Roger Stone talking about their plan to just claim victory in the election, even if they lost.
Yeah. Let's just hope we're celebrating. I really do suspect it'll still be up in the air. But when that happens, the key thing to do is to claim victory. Possession is 9/10 of the law. No, we won. You. Sorry, over. We won. Yeah. You're wrong. You.
ABC.
That was even before a winner was even decided in the 2020 election. And the filmmakers told me that it is clear to them that the January 6th committee is most interested in links between Stone and groups like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers as well.